Joining me now is D.C. police officer Michael Fanone, who was beaten and tased multiple times by the rioters on January 6th as he was pleading for his life. He is a former Capitol police officer who's been on Capitol Hill along with the mother of the late officer Brian Sicknick, pressing lawmakers for an independent commission. He also notably has been unable to meet with House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy and others who refused to see him. Well, first of all, thank you very much. Thank you for your service. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. Officer
Fanone, tell me about first of all, your reaction to what the Speaker announced. So this is going to be a House Select Committee. It's going to be democratically led, clearly. It's not the independent commission. It's not both houses, House and Senate. Is that good enough to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th?
I support the special committee. Obviously, I supported the bipartisan commission as well. It was disappointing that we couldn't get that Republican support, or at least enough of it to push it through. But I do support the Speaker's special committee. It's fine time that we got to the bottom of these root causes into the January 6th insurrection.
Tell me about your efforts to try to reach with the House Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy. You, as well as the Sicknick family, the family of Brian Sicknick, who died afterwards. Tell me about how you tried and what have you heard from the Republican leader?
So the first time I spoke out to, or the first time I reached out to Kevin McCarthy's office was back, I can't remember the exact day, but it was the day that there was a hearing regarding January 6th. And Andrew Clyde described that day as something of a normal tourist day on Capitol Hill.
Now, let me just pause you for a moment, because that is Congressman Andrew Clyde, a Republican congressman. And we have that quotation here because he said, that from what he knew, it was just like a regular tourist day. If you didn't know that the TV footage was a video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was normal tourist visit, Clyde said. Now, we also know where he was on that day because there's video of him on that day, hardly looking like a normal tourist visit. So what was your reaction to that?
He was lying. It's not downplaying it. It's not whitewashing it. It's just an out-and-out lie about what happened that day. And clearly, with the...
That's Andrew Clyde right there. In fact, he was right in the middle of it. He was escorted by security officers, by Capitol Police, presumably, to safety, to a secure location, because he was right inside the House chamber and where the door was being bashed in.
Correct. Yeah, I believe he's politicizing the event. He understands that January 6th insurrection is not politically advantageous for his party, and so he's decided to lie about what happened that day. So I did go to, or with regards to reaching out to Kevin McCarthy's office, when I learned yesterday that Kevin McCarthy had made some statements that he had provided me with, or his office had provided me with a phone number to a scheduler, which was untrue. On my initial phone call, about a month ago or so, I was provided with an email address, and also I felt was treated very disrespectfully on the phone. The original call taker was dismissive, rude, and ultimately my effort to schedule an appointment at that phone call never happened. When I learned about the statements that Kevin McCarthy made yesterday, I contacted his office. I asked for the phone number to the scheduler, as Kevin had said that was provided to me. They still would not give me a phone number. Eventually, they did take down my contact information, my name, cell phone, as well as my email address. And I never heard anything through close of business yesterday. This morning, I woke up, I sent an email to the scheduler, and I did finally receive a response. I was not given a date or a time to meet with Kevin McCarthy, only that
what
they
acknowledge. Say in that
They acknowledged the receipt of, they called it a note, and said that they would be in touch with me, and that was it.
Had you been political before January 6th?
No, I mean, I've always been pretty apolitical. I think that I would say in the last 4 years during the previous administration, there was a lot of things that got me pretty worked up. Most of them having to do with what I saw as like the politicization of law enforcement. So I became susceptible to a lot of Republican pandering regarding support for law enforcement. But, you know, not to say that the Republican Party doesn't support law enforcement, but I believe that police officers should make each individual member earn that vote and not just assume that one party or another supports police.
Let me ask you about January 6th. Tell me about what happened to you. I think we have some footage of you on that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think my experience, the video speaks for itself. I responded to the Capitol. Again, I'm a D.C. police officer. I am, not typically assigned in a uniform capacity. I worked in a narcotics unit. I ended up going there with my partner. I responded to the Lower West Terrace Tunnel, which I think was what we've determined was where the apex of most of the violence was that day. And I was pulled away from other officers out into the crowd where I was severely beaten and also electrocuted numerous times with a taser at the base of my skull. The injuries I sustained were a traumatic brain injury as well as suffering a heart attack. And I do grapple with PTSD as a result of that day.
Tell me about the PTSD. Do you have nightmares?
I don't have nightmares, but I mean, I would describe it as it really like cannibalizes you. It just eats you alive. I mean, there's days where I had like a debilitating depression. I mean, it was. It was just a horrible experience.
And how did it make you feel about your work as a police officer?
I mean, this has been a long journey. I think if you had spoken to me 4 or 5 months ago, I probably would have had a dramatically different answer. But now I've come to the realization that, a lot of the root cause for January 6th was this, tribalization in this country, politically speaking. But the way that we see one another and interact with one another, as Americans, we've just lost sight of each other's humanity. We don't treat people with compassion and empathy, just based on political views. And so I think for me, it's made me much more cognizant of those issues. And I try to interact with people, see them as a human being, not through their, political affiliations or whatever other, affiliations they might have, just as humans, and treat them with compassion and empathy.
How do you feel about your work as a police officer? Are you back on active duty?
No, ma'am. I'm still out on medical leave.
On medical leave. And you hope to go back?
I do, yes.
What kind of treatment are you under?
So originally I was seeing a cardiologist. Eventually I was cleared by the cardiologist. I also see a neuropsychologist. I was going to a cognitive therapist for a while, speech therapist, to deal with some of the cognitive issues that I experienced as a result of the TBI. A lot of talk therapy as well, trauma therapy.
And we talk about the future of the force. We've been working on a series on that. What would you like to see changed about the way police interact, are treated, how the force works in terms of some of the police issues that are now being addressed in terms of police reform?
I think my biggest takeaway from the conversation that we've been having now, and I really see it as having begun maybe about a decade ago, even earlier within my department. Again, my experience is limited to Washington, D.C. area as a U.S. Capitol police officer and a D.C. police officer. I'd like to see a change in the way that we have the conversation about law enforcement. I think there are multiple stakeholders in that conversation, and that they need to come to the table in an honest and genuine way and approach this as, a problem in which we all need to participate in the solution. And we're not going to get there by standing on top of a soapbox and screaming at one another. It's not working the way that we've been having the conversation.
Officer Fanone, thank you for your service.
Yes,
We're
ma'am.
so sorry for what you went through. But speaking out, it may be therapeutic, but it's really, really important for viewers, for our audiences to see and learn from your experience.
I appreciate that. Thank you.